Well, my name's Matt Oldacre. I'm the owner at Hometown Hobbies. We're a game store in Huntington, West Virginia. We specialize in tabletop gaming, and our main product is Magic the Gathering. About 8 years ago, me and a couple other guys decided to open up a place in Huntington because there wasn't anything locally to do like this. So we wanted a place where people could come, play in tournaments, whether they're casual or super competitive. This is the arena we wanted to open up for that. We do other card games like Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z, a new game called Force of Will. We have role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder, miniature games like Hero Clicks, and a wide selection of board games. I've been a gamer all my life. Started playing Magic in college. There was a comic book shop about a block and a half away from my dorm that sold Magic. They didn't have tables set up for tournaments like this, but, grab your cards, take them back to the dorm, and play all night to the detriment of your studies.
Typically it's just a card game, but it really depends on what the players are receiving it as, because it could be a very casual thing for just two people playing at a kitchen table. It could be a competitive thing that you go and actually win money. It's just actually a fun game, but there's so many ways of enjoying it that so many different people can enjoy it.
It's hard to explain to somebody how to play, and if they watch enough, they'll get a good idea of what's going on. But you really need to sit down and take somebody through a couple games. Say this is why this is happening. Just watching a game, it's kind of hard to know, why these cards are getting turned sideways and why everything is going on the field. But it's easy to explain once you sit and walk somebody through it.
Let's see. I'm gonna have to do a little bit at the cost of you guys. Everyone discards a card. I will draw 3 cards. Discard first. Oh, that's a good card. Discard. Man. That's a good draw. I shall. Let's pass the turn.
A normal deck of cards you can play poker with. You can play so many different ways of playing games with that deck. Solitaire, poker, just blackjack.
Right.
Same thing. It's not quite similar to that because you construct your deck based on the format. But in that same sense, you have access to all these cards, and there's so many different ways of playing it. And it really depends on who you're playing with. You can literally customize it to be whatever you want.
You construct your deck and you play head-to-head with an opponent or multiple opponents, but the easiest way is one-on-one. And you build up resources to reduce your opponent's life total from 20 to 0 before they do that to you. And that's the bare bones object of the game. You can do that by summoning creatures or casting spells that deal damage, but that's just flavor, creatures and spells. It's really numbers, and that's what a lot of people are drawn to. It's like a fun way to do math problems, really. Just you're setting up turns in advance, trying to figure out how you're going to win the game. And it's just a competitive outlet.
So essentially, each person has a starting life total. So in this format, which we're playing Commander, each person will start with 40 life points. For every point of damage that they take, their life obviously goes down that much. You can do damage by attacking with creatures, which he has one there, we have a few here. So you can use your creatures to attack your opponent. Your opponent then can have his own creatures to block and prevent damage from him, which then that damage goes to his creatures instead. You can use spells, which
I got 2 right here. There's a few variations of spells, but they typically do things. They don't actually come out and stay on the field. You cast them from your hand, and then they have some effects, and they happen. Like this spell, for example, it prevents all combat damage that we've dealt this current turn. So if someone's just trying to swing at me with all their creatures, I can use this one card, and it goes away for that turn, and it just prevents that potential damage from that one turn.
You have to have what's known as mana to cast spells. So you have to have lands that you can play one per turn, and that's how you produce mana in the game. It's just that's your resource system.
So if I draw a card for my turn, his turn, he's going to draw a card. So we'll stay evenly matched at the point of I drew a card for mine, he draws a card for his, and so on and so forth. There are cards that allow you to draw more cards per turn.
There are also cards that 2 for
And
1.
there's also cards that make your opponent discard cards.
Okay.
So, and there's all kinds of ups and downs in advantage and disadvantages of cards, depending on what your opponent's playing to what you're playing. So that's why the game is fun, because right now we sit down and we see these 4 characters here in the center, which are our commanders. These represent the colors in which our deck is made of. So like his deck is all black. It's only black. He can only play black cards in his deck. Mine, on the other hand, is blue, red, and green. I can play only blue, red, and green cards in my deck. Now that's just for the commander format. That's how it's set up. This is basically your leader, the guy who represents your deck. And so whenever I may have cards that allow me to draw extra cards, where he may have cards that make me discard cards, or make himself discard cards to do something to me. You know, I don't know what's in his deck. I don't know what's in his. I don't know what's in his. They don't know what's in mine. So you build your deck to the best advantage that you think you can overcome your opponent, no matter what they have in their deck, to hopefully be able to produce their life points before he gets yours. And it's kind of like a chess game. You know, although chess, you can see your opponent's pieces, this one you can't. This one you have to go off of instinct and what you've experienced in the past from a deck like the one that you're playing against. But not all decks are the same. So
The most complicated part, whenever I teach people how to play, it's 99% of the game is learning the turn order and how to legally play something. And the other 1% is, what does this card do? And what does this card do is just comes from experience. And everything else is just learning the turn order and what you can actually do at any given time.
There's a new set of Magic released about every 3 months. And then there'll be some like ancillary products, like, casual decks that you could buy for like Commander, like those guys were playing. But every 3 months a full set comes out, give or take. Sometimes it'll be 4 months, sometimes it'll be 2. But 4 sets a year will be a large set. And then people will buy booster packs out of those for, people are still buying booster packs that are years old. But people all have their favorite cards. It could be like they just really like the art, or they've used that card to some success in the past. And you'll get some collection like that. Most people collect to be able to play. Like the cards they're acquiring, they have every intent of putting them in decks someday. So that's the addictive nature of this game.
But when it comes to actual real-life Magic, you just get a whole bunch of cards. You can start from a pre-constructed deck. You can buy, newer players like to buy actual packs that come with specific amounts of cards inside of them. And then you just construct whatever format you're wanting to play. Like most people just start with casual, like they just put enough together to make a functional deck and then go for it.
There are cards that are worth a lot of money. Like if you go back to the earliest days of the game, and one of those cards is worth tens of thousands of dollars. That's one card. There are people that make their living just buying and selling Magic cards, going to events, trading with people, then selling those cards to vendors. And that's what they do for a living.
Financially, you can buy a pre-constructed deck for like $7. You can actually, if you are familiar with like web searching and shopping online, you can go to different websites and make quote-unquote budget decks, a playable deck for like less than that, depending on really who you're playing with. Some people, competitively speaking, will do a lot of research just to see what's good at the time, but also there's lots of themes. You can customize it based on what you want. I love art, so some of my decks are based entirely around the artwork on the cards. There's a lot of themes. It could be based on the colors. There's 5 colors represented in the game. Some of it could be a tribal aspect. There's a lot of thematic tribes in the decks, or in the game, like elves, goblins, soldiers, angels, just lots of stuff, dragons. It could also be themed after essentially what, kind of like a genre, I don't want to say genre really, like what the deck's trying to do, like A pretty common thing you'll see in a competitive environment would be like an aggressive deck, something that comes out as fast as possible. Another one is called burn, which is instead of doing what the game does is like you have a card type called a creature, which is something you can summon, you can attack with it, defend with it. That other format doesn't even rely on that. It does direct damage. The way you win in this game is reducing your opponent's life total to 0, while you hopefully don't die.
And then you want some way to actually win the game in your deck.
It's a social game, so playing with someone at your kitchen table, like a brother, sibling, or a friend, you could literally just be playing cards from the entire expanse of the game. If you plan on going to what is called an LGS, a local game shop, is that right? Mm-hmm. Just LGS. It's a kind of like a little nerdy card shop
Okay.
where people go and they actually play maybe competitively in different formats, which is just different ways of playing the game.
Our Magic tournaments are Wednesday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. Then we have Yu-Gi-Oh! On Saturday afternoons, HeroClix, and board games on Thursday nights. And sometimes we'll have special events on the weekends for Magic, like this weekend coming up. We have what's called a pre-release. It's when you get to play with the new cards a week before you can buy them, basically. On an average Friday night, we get in the 20s. This weekend, we'll have probably around 200 people over the course of the weekend playing in the store. Our largest tournament we've ever done has been right around 80 people, which the largest tournament that has been done for Magic the Gathering was almost 8,000. Yeah, I was actually at that tournament with 8,000 people. It was at the end of May in Las Vegas. You can win large sums of money. It's not easy, but yeah, you play for the chance to get to the Pro Tour is what a lot of our aspiring players are doing. And first place at a Pro Tour is $40,000. They do 4 Pro Tour tournaments a year that coincide with the release of the sets that I was talking about earlier. And you have to earn your way onto it. And, most of the time that requires winning multiple tournaments to get there. And then once you're there, you can do well enough that you're qualified for the next one, or, qualify for multiple of them if you do superbly. We get to run one tournament basically every 3 months that feeds into the Pro Tours. So, some lucky player here can win a tournament here and then, travel to a regional tournament to qualify to play professionally. There's been several people here that have made the Pro Tour. Nobody has been one of the big names in the game from this area, but we've had a lot of people get to that level. We post all of our tournaments on Facebook. All of the, shop news goes on to Facebook, and it's, we update it fairly regularly. Just come down. If we're not busy, we're happy to show people how to play. We'll have a couple, like sample decks for people to go through and learn all about the cards, what types of cards there are, and how to play them. You can teach yourself with online tutorials, but the best way is to sit down across the table from a friend of yours that knows how to play and let them teach you.
Actually, you don't actually have to have physical cards to play. What I usually suggest for newer players is to try a digital version of the game, because it does a lot. Like, it gives you a whole bunch of stuff you don't have to spend money on past the actual game. But also, it essentially helps you learn without giving you the chance to make a mistake, because the digital game restricts that.
It just appeals to competitive people. Like, I know a lot of people that have played like sports in high school that later in life gravitate towards Magic just to fulfill that out, have that as an outlet. So, and it's just fun. Like, you get to hang out with your friends, make new friends, and win prizes. I encourage anybody that's remotely interested in something like this to give it a try. It's a fun, just wonderful hobby.